Okay. I'm Brent in Japan. I'm at Sake House in Umeda with Julian.
Is this a test or
Yeah, no, we're starting.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And tell me all about this place.
So this is Sake House. I've been open since mid-February. What's the date today? So yeah, pretty much right on 4 months. And it's been an idea in the making for quite a while. I've been involved in sake for about 15 years here in Japan.
How? I know how. Tell them.
Well, how far back do we go?
Yeah, well, I mean, I always knew you as a bassist in town. Excellent one. And I knew that you were teaching English classes. I thought you were teaching English classes as your main job, but it turns out you're also doing translation, tour guide, and some kind of sake related stuff. So tell me about all that.
So I first came to Japan 25 years ago in 2000, and I came here originally to do music. I was like young and dumb enough to kind of just think of the idea of going overseas and maybe some kind of adventure would present itself and maybe I'd find some kind of interesting line of work in music somehow. I didn't know what, but I just thought it would just be an adventure to come here for a year.
Well, if you're going to do that, kids, do it when you're young and dumb.
Exactly.
Because then you can always just, do something else later.
Erase, and start again. But when I came here, I mean, to cut a long story short, I wasn't finding any music work because it was 2000 and there was no internet and didn't have social media, didn't know how to find any music work. And ended up teaching English and studying Japanese, started studying Japanese, and I enjoyed studying Japanese. So I stayed on for a second year and went to Japanese school full time. And while I was doing that, I started working in a bar in the evening to practice my Japanese. And then that side of things kind of snowballed. And so I then ended up getting asked to work at another bar and then another bar. I ended up running a cafe cocktail bar in Tokyo and Harajuku for a little while, and then came back and was just working in all sorts of different type of hospitality things here in Osaka. But that was all like cocktail, wine and spirits related stuff. It wasn't actually sake. Sake was kind of the thing that you drink after work.
Okay, so you said there's so much in there. Okay, so first of all, so about getting work, it was almost impossible to find things back then. I remember the only way I found, I wasn't necessarily interested. I actually found a band by going to a bar that my girlfriend knew some guys who were in a rock band, and we went to see them, and just by chance, their bassist and vocalist were leaving the band.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I play bass and sing. So I ended up playing for that band. But I remember going to, I think it was Ishibashi in Shinsaibashi, right near the Sony building, which is not the Sony building anymore, where they had the organ player playing really wicked organ tunes outside. And there was a board with a little slips of paper, like looking for a singer, looking for, grunge, whatever, the heavy metal band. And so that was basically the only way you could you could get a band, or you'd have to go out and see bands and tell them, hey man, I'm looking for work.
So my thing, I had a little bit, everyone has a different experience when they come here. And for me, when I started teaching English at the school I taught at was like really small. There was only like 2 other native teachers. And one of them was married and had kids, and the other one was a much older lady. So I didn't really have my first few years in Japan, I didn't have that community of foreigners around me. I was hanging around with all Japanese people and didn't have many. I had a couple, but not many Western friends. And
that's the way to do it, by the way. Just get some Japanese friends. Join jiu-jitsu or karate or ikebana, flower arranging, or do something and just get some Japanese friends.
Well, my hobby was pretty much drinking. It was nothing that educational, I'm afraid. Everyone knew, I wasn't really in the the gaijin scene of hanging around to the gaijin bars. Because I didn't know anyone to go to those places with. And I think maybe I went to it was probably the Blarney Stone or maybe a couple of other Irish pubs, and a couple of times I saw bands and I wasn't maybe particularly inspired, and I had friends that would say, oh, if you're interested in, you should go to this bar, and they'd send me to a live house, and it'd be like full-on heavy metal or something, and I'd be like, no, that's not what I was looking for. Or it'd be like some full-on traditional jazz place, and I'd be like, that's not what I'm looking for. And I just didn't know how to find my people, kind of thing. So it's kind of funny looking back on it, because when I did start, we'll jump ahead a bit, but when I did start kind of playing again in around 2015, 16, and then by that time, the whole social media and the community was like so easy to find people. And so some of the other like musicians, you know, like yourself and like other people that had been doing it for a while assumed that I just arrived in Japan. They were like, oh, you know, there's a new guy. I'm like, no, I've actually been here for like since 2000. But
I did assume that actually. Yeah.
I just hadn't been playing because because I just fell out of it. But anyway, going back to...
And so then also, sorry, but the Japanese school, you kind of just skipped over that. So you went to Japanese school full time.
Yeah, it was like 9 till 3, 5 days a week.
And then you worked at night. Okay, so this is something we haven't talked about in my podcast yet, like night jobs. I also knew a woman who was hostess at night. It's a Brazilian woman. She was a hostess at night, and the day she had an office job actually, but she didn't need an office job. She made enough money at night, but had like double income. She was making tons of money, and she ended up buying houses back in Brazil, you know. And but yeah, so going to school in the day, working at a bar at night, and so you studied the whole thing, all the writing. You can write Japanese now. You can read it, basically.
I could write okay at that time, but that was when I was like first. But I was only doing it just to pass the tests and to get through the class kind of thing. I didn't really know what I was writing. And then once I finished that was a 1-year course. And once I finished it, as you know, like when do you ever write in Japanese with a pencil? The only thing I ever write is my address. So
me too. And as a matter of fact, even Japanese forget the Chinese characters.
Yeah.
So they're like, what? They have to look on their phone.
Exactly.
Yeah. With me, probably you too. Whenever I'm texting in Japanese, anything that I can say or think of, basically I can text, because in case you don't know this, when you text using the Japanese alphabet, a variety of, Chinese characters come up, and then you choose the correct one. So I know what I want when I see it.
Yeah.
But if you said write, you know, meeting, kaigi now, I'd be like, well, there's a kind of little hat, and then I can write kai, but gi, no way.
No,
I can't write it. But if I see it, I can read it.
Yep.
So same with you?
Yep.
And basically everything you can say, you can write, right? Like I can text.
Yeah, I can read pretty well. And I can type and write fine. But if you give me a pencil, I think because what it is muscle memory.
Sure.
And I've got absolutely zero muscle memory for writing the characters.
Yeah.
So now I'm at the point now where even like hiragana and katakana, you know, the phonetic ones, I'm getting rusty on because I just never do it, because it's just.
I had that experience recently. I was writing on the board, and I wrote a little bit of Japanese because I knew in advance that it was all something I could write, but it ended up with the toe. I was like, is it like this or is it like that?
Yeah.
I was like, which way? I couldn't remember. And I had to ask my students, it's like this, right? The line and then like this. And they was like, yeah, okay, great. Thanks. Yeah. So how about now your reading level? Is it kind of like a newspaper? That's pretty difficult, right?
I think it's, I mean, I'm always skeptical of anyone that says they're like fluent, because, you know, if you think out even in English, you know, if a topic is difficult for you, if it's not your wheelhouse, then it's difficult to read. So if you give me a book on quantum physics in English, I can look at the words, but I can't comprehend it and tell you what it all says. I can't understand it. So if you give me a quantum physics books in Japanese, then it's the next level up of not understanding. I even can't understand it even more poorly. See.
Yeah, I think if you gave me the text to like some like reality show or something like that, I could probably read, 80% of that or 70% of that. But a newspaper, no. There's too many kanji.
Get the headlines and I can get the gist of it. But I mean, there's, of course, the thing is there's specialties. And my specialty is sake. So I've read textbooks and stuff. And the average Japanese person is not familiar with a lot of the kanji that's in the characters that are involved with sake. So in that regard, in a weird kind of, not wanting to sound boastful, but I can probably read a lot of things that the regular Japanese person who's not into sake can't read. So. Yeah,
I actually teach this tourism class. It's Japanese people who want to get their English tourism guide license. Mm-hmm. And so just from that class, I know I know more about sake, I think, than many people or like some Japanese people know about the koji and how it's made. Like if you ask your average Japanese person how sake is made, they don't know.
No.
Yeah, just like, I don't know how beer is made. I mean, I guess you boil some barley or whatever, and then it just somehow ferments and add sugar and something, and that creates what is it, carbonation? Yeah, that's about as much I know about beer brewing, and that's about how much I know about sake. But yeah, a lot of Japanese people don't know. And then I learned words like koji and, and stuff like that. So, okay. So yeah, like I said, it was, I actually, I'm planning on making a YouTube short video of the my maximum reading level, because I was at the dentist and I had to, because I hadn't been there in a few months, I had to fill out that form again.
Right.
So, everybody knows this when you go to a doctor if it's in England or France or wherever, you have to fill out a form, right? Your name and, do you have any allergies and stuff like that? And I was thinking to myself, oh, this is like my maximum reading level. Like, this is difficult. Like, I'm like, maybe I think I know that. And then, nope, not pregnant. And, and then, allergies. Yeah, I know all that. But, and then sometimes I have to go to the lady and say, what does this say? What is this kind of a character? And then she says, blah, blah, blah. When she says it, I'm like, oh, okay. So no. And, but yeah, I've already prepared prepared my YouTube video. I'm just too busy to actually put it up. But, yeah, I would say that's probably the maximum level of my reading ability. Okay. So you went to school and so another great thing is like you said about just being in bars all the time, you're just talking to people all the time. And so if you want to learn a language, like I always say, everybody knows how to learn a language. You study it and you speak it. There, So if you study Spanish and you go to Spain and start talking with people, you're going to speak Spanish at some point. You just keep doing that. So that's what I did. My version was like I studied from a textbook, and then I would go to cafes or bars like this or cafes like this where the person had no choice but to talk to me. So I would go in there in my small town and they would be like, wow, this foreigner's here. And then I would say, like, my name is Brent. What is your name? Like in my, very pedestrian Japanese and stuff. So you were probably like just talking all night, every night in Japanese, right?
Yeah, I was, yeah, no, I really got into it. I wasn't like a language nerd as such. I never was like, some of the people really get into the weeds of it and getting into the character. I wasn't really into that, but I really enjoyed, the speaking side of it. And at that time, it's different now there's all YouTube tutorials and stuff on how to speak, Japanese properly and like natives and stuff. But at that time, it was like books like Japanese for Busy People and stuff like that. It was very, right?
That's what I used,
business orientated stuff. And I had, I would sit at home and I'd do a chapter and then I'd go out that night and, and I would talk to, this was in the first year before I was working in a bar, and I'd talk to my Japanese friends and kind of use what I'd studied that day. And you could just kind of see them smirking and they'd be like, dude, no one talks like that. That's, I was like, well, that's all I've got. So help me. And so they would teach me, they would say, instead of saying it like that, say it like this. And, the other thing that I used to do was I think I learned Japanese by sound bites in a way. So like we'd be in a situation, and if some of the girls that we knew came in and one of the guys would say something and all the girls would like giggle and blush, and I just like go, that's whatever he said, that's a good phrase, I'm going to remember that. And I'd put it in the data bank and like save that for next time, and just try it out myself. And or if someone says something and like it's clearly it's a zinger, it's a good punchline or whatever, I'd go, I'm going to remember that and just put it in the data bank and use it the same way.
Yeah.
And, and hopefully you get it at the right kind of timing and that as well. So just the way people were greeting each other or saying, the way they were saying thank you, the way they were interacting, I'd just taken these phrases of what people were saying and kind of remembering that. And I've always liked, doing impersonations kind of thing. So like, and mimicking accents and stuff. So like I think that kind of helped. I liked just copying the way my friends were speaking literally.
Oh, yeah.
Which another thing, which I think is important with studying Japanese is that I was lucky with is I had these male Japanese friends, and male Japanese and female Japanese is different. And to this day, you come across guys who have clearly learned Japanese from their girlfriend and they have no idea that they sound really effeminate when they're speaking. So I was lucky that I had these guys that were around me that would like, if I did say anything like that, they'd be like, no, that's not, you don't say it like that,
Yeah, I have a story like that. I was talking to my friend Goto-san. So I'm also lucky in that I had a couple like older Japanese guy friends, but actually most of my Japanese came from girls that I was dating. And so one time I was talking to my friend Goto-san, and I said, Atashi wa ne. And then I said, whatever I want to say. And he's like, whoa, Brento. Yeah, yamete. Stop. He said, no, you can't say that. He said, you're hanging out with Yuki-chan too much. He said, like, guys don't say, atashi.
Yeah.
You say, boku or ore.
Yeah.
And that's all. If you want to be polite, watashi. And, so I was like, oh, okay, got it. And then the other one I said that actually another foreign guy called me out on is I said, uchi no bando,
right.
which only girls say. It should be, boku no bando. And, so this foreign guy, Mark, he said, hey man, like, uchi is only girl talk. He said, you're showing your colors.
Right.
Yeah. So, God, there's so much, everything you say, it's like, there's like a list of things I want to address, about the, So, a lot of people think that you can learn a language by immersion.
Right.
And you can't really, not as an adult, because if you try it, you can pick up a lot of vocabulary, but your grammar, you don't learn the grammatical patterns unless you kind of study it, or like you did, notice it. You have to notice it. And just that noticing, like you said, okay, what that guy said, okay, that was cool. I got to remember that. Noticing that, and when you notice that, you're also noticing, like, you're noticing both the words and it's subconsciously inputting the grammatical pattern of what he said into your head also. Yeah, that you can learn. And I'm just saying that not for you, but for people who at home, that if you come to Japan and think like, oh, if I live in Japan, I'm going to be able to speak Japanese. Only if you study it. You got to study the grammar and study the vocabulary and then speak with people. And the other thing I want to say is, like, the Japanese for Busy People, the textbook, great textbook, by the way. I think that's the one you should use. The Japanese version is called Minna no Nihongo. And learn the polite Japanese first, the textbook Japanese. It's the best way to start, because you're not going to offend anyone.
Right.
Because if you say the wrong casual thing to the wrong level of person, socially, I'm talking to them, then, you're going to be rude, and you could end up, fighting somebody in a bar, and they're going to say, who the fuck you think you're talking to? It's learn the polite Japanese first, and then notice how the people around you are actually speaking like you did. And for me, because I lived the whole time in Kansai, I was saying something like, ashita nani o shimasu ka to my friends, and they would say, mara shiran. And I would say, shirang, what's shirang? Oh, so I was like, what are you doing tomorrow? And they said, I don't know. But the I don't know they said was not the polite version that I know. Shirimasen. They were saying, so I would look up in the dictionary, I said, shidan. And my friend, Tomoko, she'd say, like, Brent, you can't find that in dictionary. That's the Kansai dialect.
Yeah.
It's not there. And I said, oh, so there's a gap. And what I noticed was they were speaking to me in their friendly language, but I was speaking to them like I didn't want to know them. Like I was speaking to them above them in this polite language. So I felt the distance. And so I got a Teach Yourself Kansai Ben book.
Right.
And I started looking at the ones, and I started asking my friends, do you actually say this? And there's like, no, only like 80-year-old guys say that. I was like, okay,
exactly
X.
the same,
And just like, how about this one? Say, yeah, we use that one all the time. Okay, circle. And you were in Tokyo?
No, Osaka.
Oh, you're in Osaka the whole time.
Yeah.
So you also have levels. You can speak polite Japanese. You can speak Kansai Ben.
I do. I guess I speak Kansai Ben, but it's not a conscious thing. It's just So, I find like it's in. So in 2004 I went. I mentioned that I went. Did I mention? So I was running a place up in Harajuku in Tokyo, and that was for just under a year. And one of the things, there were a number of things I didn't enjoy about it, but one of the things that I didn't enjoy was living in Tokyo at that point. And Tokyo people just couldn't wrap their heads around why I spoke Osaka Ben. And I was always like, well, it's pretty obvious if you think about it, isn't it? I lived in Osaka. That's where I learned Japanese. And they'd still be like, yeah, but why do you speak Osaka Ben? It's like, I just told you why. Because I lived in Osaka, and now I'm in Tokyo. And they'd be like, yeah. And the two things that would either happen is, sometimes they would they'd take the piss and they'd say, well, if you're going to speak Osaka Ben, I'm going to do it too. Let's all speak Osaka Ben and make a game out of it. I'm like, you're being rude now. You're just making fun of me. And, and another time, like I remember, and this is because I was working in the service industry. And I was talking to like a customer, and another girl that was another customer there, she kind of scowled at me, and then she just said in Japanese, she's like, so is that your thing? Is that working for you? And I was like, I'm sorry, what are you talking about? She's like, the Kansai Ben, is that your shtick? You know, because, you know, there's a thing where some people think, you know, well, especially Osaka people think that there's like, you know, dialect envy around Osaka Ben, that it's the popular one, you know, that if you can speak it, that's the cool one to speak. And so she was like insinuating that I'd heard that Kansai Ben is the you know, the cool way to speak, and if I speak it in Tokyo, maybe I'll pick up chicks or something like that. And I was just like, what are you talking about, lady?
Actually, it's the opposite, because a lot of people think that Osaka dialect is kind of dirty Japanese.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it would be strange.
I think it's the comedian's dialect as well. You know, so if you speak it, you know, that's the one that, you know, the funny guys speak, kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, so I just couldn't relax in Tokyo. But the thing that it did help me to do was help me to cover it, because I then after a while started, you know, becoming more conscious of the parts of my Japanese that were deliberately and obviously Kansai, and I started trying to switch those off so I could basically blend in better in Tokyo and try and speak the Hyojin, or the standard Japanese.
Sure. So. Just in case anybody's wondering, like the Osaka dialect is both a combination of words that are different from regular Japanese and an intonation that's different. It's kind of like British people and Texan people don't say very different words from each other. Unless they're saying like, oh, it's raining, I'm going to get my Mac, or, you know, instead of a raincoat. But the accent, of course, is way different.
Right.
And so even when I suspect you, speak the Hyojingo, which is a standardized Japanese, we still have the Osaka accent, probably. And so, yeah, so when I go to Tokyo, I turn off the Kansai dialect words, but still I have the accent, and people go, you live in Osaka?
Yeah,
I live in Kobe, yeah. So,
but the flip side of that, though, that I've had in Osaka is, and this doesn't happen often, but it's just happened a couple of times, where someone gets a bit overprotective of their Osaka dialect or their Kansai dialect, and they tell me that, you know, your Kansai dialect, it's not quite there. Your intonation is not perfect. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm not trying to. And my ears aren't, to be honest, they're not that attuned to trying, you know, to hear, you know, all the you know, the different, you know, the, you know, details of the intonation. I know the different words and some of the ways of the intonation I do, but when I'm speaking in Japanese, I'm not, you know, if I slip into, you know, a different type of intonation, or slip out of Osaka intonation, I'm not aware of it, and I don't really care, as long as people understand. So when they kind of pick me up and they say, oh, no, that's not quite the correct intonation, who cares?
Yeah, I made the conscious effort to learn Kansai dialect because that's what my friends spoke.
Right.
And so I thought it would be, you know, we'd have a closer relationship if I spoke it. I'm not putting on airs, and I don't do the whole like, Nandeyan, and I don't do that rough voice or whatever. I just speak however I speak now, but in Japanese. And, but yeah, I find that Kansai people are pretty open to the answer, because I live in Kansai.
Right.
When they answer like, why you speak Kansai dialect? And I was like, yeah, I moved to Japan. I've been living in Kansai for a long time now. And so that's the language I learned. They were like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
The funniest kind of little anecdote that I had though of that in Tokyo was, during the summer, and, the company that was that were delivering our fresh vegetables and stuff, they had left a box of the vegetables, you know, for that day in front of the shop door, like, you know, and everyone knows what summer is like here, and like by 9 o'clock it's like steaming hot kind of thing. And so I got there and the vegetables were like cooked, and it was like, he's supposed to like leave it around the corner in the shade. And so I rang up and like kind of, you know, gave him a bit and was like, dude, well, you know, you've just delivered a box of vegetables that are all shit now and withered and everything. And I was a bit annoyed kind of thing. And I wasn't going nuts, but I was just, you know, giving a bit of attitude, I guess. And the guy sat there and listened to it. And then at the end of it, there's just like this pause, and he's like, why the Kansai pen? And I was like, you serious? Did you miss all the bit about the vegetables?
Yeah.
He was just like, and then he was like, I'd never noticed that you speak that way before. And I was like, yeah, forget it, dude. Anyway, put the vegetables in the right spot next time.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I flushed out all that stuff. But so you got interested in, how did you get interested in sake, and then where did that take you?
I mean, I'm working in bars. So I finished the Japanese school. I'm working in bars, and I'm teaching English during the day and still working in bars. Basically, my first 7 years here, I just was hustling really hard. I was working like just all the time. If I had a gap in my schedule, I'd stick something either in there, whether it was private lessons or another working at a cafe, another part-time job or something. I didn't. It's really funny to look back because I was here for 7 years, and I didn't do anything touristy. I didn't do any of the stuff that that people do. I just worked, and it was there were periods where it was really cool, but basically after 7 years of working doing some English teaching, doing some like hospitality. Sometimes I was doing all hospitality. Sometimes it was a bit of a mix, but then basically. It was a combination of being burnt out and the inevitable getting sponsorship with visas and stuff like that. And
that must have been difficult for you, just these part-time jobs everywhere.
Yeah, it was like part-time, sometimes like and full-time here and there, and then like milking the last part of it when you've left, kind of thing. All the different types of things and whatnot. But it was more than that. It was just like I was burnt out, and I was getting really homesick. And so I went back to Australia, and I went back with my girlfriend at the time. But at that time I was like I said, I was burnt out, and I was like, I miss Australia, and I wanted to get out of the city a bit. So I moved to the Gold Coast in Australia. I'm from Sydney originally, but the Gold Coast is kind of like, a surfer town. Not that I'm a surfer, but it was great. Lived near the beach, and had a swimming pool and all that, and just living a life, having barbecues on the balcony and nice walks on the beach in the evening, everything. And I was in the wine industry there, selling wine basically. And so I was back in Australia for about 5-6 years, and it was during that period around like the late 2000s, because I had all these connections and whatnot in the wine industry. Some of the distributors were looking at bringing sake in. That was when those kind of interest was starting to start. And everyone kind of turned to me and were like, "You're the guy, right? You lived in Japan. You speak Japanese. So tell us about sake. What should we be looking for? What should we import?" And I was like, I don't know. I didn't know. I was like, yeah, I drank a lot of it, but I don't know anything about it. And it was a kind of combination of that. And then when having that, because when you're back home, I'd go to Japanese restaurants and I'd do the same thing that other people do. So I'd go, well, we're here in a Japanese restaurant. Let's have some sake for the fun of it. And I would drink it and go, yeah, actually, I kind of miss this. I enjoyed sake, but I never paid attention to it. And so I decided to because I would come back to Japan all the time, even though I was living in Australia, come back a few times a year, and started lining that up with visiting sake bars and going to, looking up events and finding events and visiting sake breweries. And then I did some courses. There's a whole bunch of courses you can do. At that time, there was only one course in English that you could do. And I took that course, and then I took the second level course of that, and then culminated in doing the Japanese Kikizakeshi certification, which is people call it sake sommelier certification, which I guess is a good enough translation as any.
Yeah, sure, why not? Yeah.
And my wife, my girlfriend and I, we got married there in Australia, and we stayed there. And like I said, we're there for about 6 years, and then we got to a point where we're like, okay, what are we doing? Are we going to stay here? Is this the deal, or are we going to come back to Japan? We're kind of getting to the age where we kind of need to figure out what, make our decision, and we decided to come back. We moved back in around 2012. And so before that, I'd started in terms of sake, the first thing I started to do was that everyone did around that time was started a blog. So it was probably one of there weren't many blogs around in English on sake at the time. So I started doing that. And then that, once we moved back here, that kind of, evolved into, writing about sake. There was some very small publications and things like that about, sake. There's one sake magazine in the world. So writing for that, and then, and it just, evolved into meeting more breweries, and then, breweries that were looking to expand overseas and translate their materials and stuff like that, or tasting notes into English. And so did translating, and then that evolved into about 10 years ago, I started tour guiding, taking, visitors to Japan out to sake bars and sometimes to breweries, and explaining sake and that kind of thing. So that's the nutshell version.
Wow, cool. Okay, so now if somebody came to Japan and wanted to do a like a sake brewery tour, can you recommend one?
In Osaka, the easiest one, I mean, for Osaka, probably the easiest one to get to and comprehensive is Daimon Brewery, Daimon Shuzo, which is in Katano.
And you just go there yourself, right? You just show up and then
You got to you make a booking.
oh, you make a booking
make an
there, okay.
appointment.
For an English guide.
Yeah, so Diamond Brewery is actually an interesting and rather unique brewery, and it's one of two, or at least with it, it's where the CEO, the owner, is a foreigner. So that brewery was actually in a bit of financial trouble about 10 years ago, and was looking at they were possibly going to close, and a American investment banker and also sake aficionado came across them and struck up a deal, and he ended up getting together some investors and taking it over. And so now that brewery is Japan's only American. I mean, it's still a Japanese company, but like run by an American.
And all run. I mean, but like the all the people kept their jobs, right? They
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's cool. And then places you can just go and look around are like Fushimi, right?
Fushimi is pretty, especially now it's so crowded though.
Yeah. Do they have English explanations on everything now?
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't been to Fushimi for a while. It's not my favorite sake place, but
Me too, because
they do. I think the bigger breweries like Gekkeikan, they have their explanations in English, but I think where we're getting to is much better places. Nara in the Kobe region there.
Yeah, Nada's good. And I haven't been, and I live in Kobe. I haven't been to the breweries there.
Nada's awesome.
There's
really
five.
cool.
There's Nada Goko, right? There's five breweries in the same area.
Villages.
Yeah. So yeah, I really need to go there. And that you can kind of just do on your own. Of course, you can hire a tour guide to take you around and really give you more information.
Yeah. Yep. You can definitely just do it on your own and walk around. And, it's pretty much, once you get to like Uozaki Station there's like maps. You can just like take a photo of the map and just like, it's a crawl. You can basically just walk around all these places, and some of them have free tasting or, a little bit, not much, maybe a couple of 100 yen or something to do a little tasting, and they'll have snacks and things like that, and they'll have museums or, there's a whole bunch of so basically in Nara and Fushimi. So Fushimi and Nara together, those are the major brewing areas in the whole of Japan. So that those two areas alone produce like something like a third of all the sake in Japan.
Right.
So you've definitely got the big breweries there.
And part of the reason is the water, right? They just got nice, clean, free, flowing water.
That's kind of their sales pitch for sure. Is their stored Miyamizu water there in Nara, which has a lot of mythology and legends around it. But that was kind of what put that region on the map. A few hundred years back, as it was the water is very mineral rich, which gives the sake more sturdy and a more robust fermentation. And that sake, because that was more robust and stronger and sturdier, it basically had a longer shelf life. And so it was more suitable to shipping up to Tokyo or Edo at the time. And so it became, whereas a lot of other sake, just didn't travel as well. So like sake has always been and still is very much a regional thing. But like the sake from Nara had this, mineral rich water, which helped it to travel better. And so that kind of increase the reputation of the area. And
yeah, I mean, you're hard pressed to find anywhere in Japan that doesn't have river runoff from mountains that would provide a lot of purification and minerals. But I guess there's also great rice in Hyogo, in Kobe, near Kobe. And then the other place is also Gifu, right? Gifu is like really famous for sake. No, sorry, Gifu. Not. I always say Gifu. Niigata.
Niigata, yeah.
Yeah.
Niigata. So Niigata has the most breweries, so by number. So Nara and Fushimi make the most sake, and Niigata has the most breweries. And they're probably one of the areas that has like a distinct regional style. And it's not so much based on the climate or the effects of their environment, but it's more of a conscious decision of hey guys, let's all make this style of sake, the Tanne Karakuchi, the light and dry Niigata style is kind of their shtick. Not every brewery does it, but a lot of them have kind of, they're very cooperative up there in that regard.
I see. Okay, and so let's say you're basically like me and know like nothing about what to order in a restaurant. So what do? I go to, like, let's say I'm at a restaurant. I think like, hey, let's have some sake. We're in Japan. We should have sake. What do I do?
So this is a source of endless frustration because, first of all, depending on and a lot of people are surprised when they come to Japan because you think, well, you're in Japan, you're going to get sake everywhere, and you don't. There's so many types of restaurants that either don't have sake at all, or they have just like maybe one or two, and if they're maybe it's just not on their radar, they just get the cheapest one from the supermarket. They might be serving a pack sake or something like that, in a carton, and so it's honestly it's quite disappointing that the lack of support from a lot of our restaurants here in Japan for their national beverage.
Sushi restaurants, one of my favorite restaurants, Ume no Hana, and izakaya, Japanese dining bars, they usually have sake, right?
Izakayas usually have a few, yeah. But a couple of things like yakiniku restaurants, for example, are notorious for not having sake.
Right. And I wouldn't drink sake. Personally, I wouldn't drink sake.
No, I don't either.
With grilled, with Korean barbecue.
It's pretty hard to go past beers.
That's a beer place, yeah.
Okonomiyaki restaurants as well are kind of notorious for not having sake. Gyoza restaurants almost.
Those are other places where I think beer is way better than others. But, this is only my taste.
Yeah.
Just so somebody else might.
Yakiniku I definitely agree with. But I think I also do think it's important to, and I've had this discussion with restaurant owners and whatnot of like, it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you put a crap sake on the menu and no one orders it, and then they go, see, no one orders it, and it's like, well, how about you put something decent on? You might find that people order it. And even then, it might take time for people to realize that you've got it, because they come into this yakiniku restaurant, and like you or me, they will just assume that there's no good sake, so you just stick with the beers anyway.
Right.
And then so you got to make people aware that, oh, by the way, we've got a decent sake there. And if a place does that, I will always make the effort to support and go, well, thank you for making the effort of getting something decent in.
Okay, and so just to show how biased I am towards beer, I prefer my sushi with beer as well, but sake goes great with sushi, right?
Yes.
So, okay, let's say I go to a sushi restaurant and they have sake on the menu, and let's say it's even in English, sake. Now, how do I choose one? Is it basically kind of like you pay for what you get for it? Like if I go higher up the price list, I'm going to get better sake?
No.
Right.
So that's, again, one of the things that always comes up with sake. So it's different so there are grades with sake. And the highest grade that even most Japanese people that know nothing about sake, they'll grab onto this phrase daiginjo, which basically just means like ultra premium. And what makes daiginjo, whether it's junmai daiginjo or ginjo or daiginjo, is how much of the outside of the rice they've milled away. So if you've got a grain of rice, and to qualify as being daiginjo status, they have to have milled at least 50% of the grain away. So if you think, automatically that tells you need more rice to make it, because your rice grains are much smaller. So that's your first step there of where the money's going. It's going to that. Also daiginjo is often brewed at lower temperatures and takes a bit longer, so it's a bit more man hours, it's a bit more hands-on. But that style of sake is generally aromatic, floral, lighter. Sometimes it can be kind of intense with those aromas, and somewhat on the sweeter side, perhaps. So it comes down to, if you're not into that, if that's not your style, why would you want to go and pay extra money for that? It's like if people say champagne is the sparkling wine, or champagne is the pinnacle of the wine world, but if you're a red wine drinker, why would you think that you have to pay champagne money?
There's also another thing, like brut champagne is like, when people have the idea of champagne, they think like, wow, yeah, let's have champagne. But a lot of people don't like it because it's not sweet.
Right.
A lot of people prefer like rosé champagne because it's a little sweeter, or sparkling wine. Yeah. If you give most people a real champagne or sparkling wine, they'll probably prefer the sparkling wine because it's a little sweeter. And okay, so once you've gotten a type, okay, so there are dry types and sweeter types, right? Mm-hmm. So if you said that to a server who spoke some English, if you said like, can I have dry sake, please? Would that translate?
Yeah. Okay. Although that's one of my little pet peeves in the sake world is,
good.
if you leave it up to it's especially like if you go to a sake tasting in Japan, you see this all the time. And I was at a tasting last week, and it's always happens. Is you got the stands, the tables there with like brewers with their wares kind of thing, and any guy that's over 50, because if they don't know where to start, they'll just ask for the dry one, and it's like, why is that your thing that you go to? It's just because it's this weird thing of like, sweeter sake or sake with sweetness is less masculine, or it's childish, or it's
okay, so
you know what I mean?
That is true. Although, when I want a wine, I want the dry wine because I know that's what I prefer. So you suspect it's not really what they prefer, it's the kind of macho order.
It's partly that.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is with sake though as well is it should have sweetness. And so when I say sweetness, I don't mean like dessert wine level sweetness, which although you can get that, but some people just hear that word sweet and they think you're talking about like a lollipop or candy level. Yeah. It's like, that's not what sweetness is. It's like, it doesn't have to be that. Whereas on the flip side, if I see on a sake label, so dry is often expressed as karakuchi, right? And then sometimes you even see like the cho karakuchi, the extra dry, or super dry kind of thing. To me, that's like a massive turnoff. Because if I see that style of sake, that if it's going to be like that super extra dry, it just tastes like they've stripped everything out of it.
And it has that alcohol taste, right?
You can taste the alcohol more. Whereas like if you ever see like when Japanese people eat really good rice, they'll often say like it has amami, it's amai. Mm-hmm. And it's like it's this sweetness, but it's not. Of course, rice doesn't taste like sugar, but does have that sweetness to that pleasant sweetness to it.
It does, yeah. There's
and that's
something
what
sweet.
Sake, a good sake, I think, should have some of that. Some that kind of, again, not sugary sweetness, but that it shouldn't be bone dry.
Yeah. Well, I can tell right now by this conversation that I do like drier but still aromatic. So basically, when I buy sake, it's such a rare thing that I just go for the daiginjo, and I've never been disappointed. And so, yeah, they all taste good, and I don't think they taste necessarily alcoholic. You can't taste too much alcohol. They don't taste sweet either, but they have like a nice. It's almost like it's like red wine. When you take some red wine, you go, it has this like. This sort of like it like flowers in your mouth and your taste buds and in your and the smell and everything. Sake does the same thing, and I'm very surprised by how infrequently I drink sake, because every time I drink it, I really enjoy it.
Yeah,
but it's one of these things like okonomiyaki, takoyaki, and sushi. Sake. These are things that are not in my Rolodex, even after living here for 25 years. Not in my Rolodex of like, what do you want to eat tonight? Searching. Sushi. It just doesn't come up. But if somebody else says, how will we go for sushi? Yeah, great idea.
Right.
So same with okonomiyaki, but I love okonomiyaki.
Yeah.
But I just don't think of it myself. And then, when somebody else says, oh, we should have some sake, I go, great idea, but I'm always just like beer.
Yeah.
So I really should drink it more often, because every time I do, I just love it. And then also, okay, so if I'm going to order,
we still haven't yet figured out how to order yet, have we?
So daiginjo, if you want if you can memorize that phrase, daiginjo, or, put it in your phone somewhere so you know what to order, you could just say that in a restaurant.
You could say daiginjo, or the next level down from that is ginjo, which is, a bit less intense, a bit less floral and elegant, perhaps. And ginjo is like some people might not agree, but it's a kind of a bit of a safe word. It's a fairly safe area to be in. But still, having said that, the thing is with and this is kind of the difficult thing about getting into sake, which brings me to why it is difficult to order in a restaurant sometimes, is even if you say daiginjo is actually, funnily enough, even though it's very few sake aficionados or people that are into sake, it's almost nobody's favorite style of sake. And every time I visit a brewery and talk to a brewer, and I always ask them, what do you drink after you finish work? No one has ever said daiginjo. No one like.
Well, also it's more expensive too, right?
Yeah,
so
true.
when I drink it, like I said, because it's such a rare occasion, I think I'll splurge. I'll get the daiginjo, even though I probably would be satisfied with other types.
Right.
You know, yeah. And it occurs to me now that maybe ginjo might match your kind of average food a little bit better. Might not overwhelm.
It's probably it's less overwhelming than daiginjo can be. But the thing is, grades aside from daiginjo is and junmai daiginjo is fairly, like you said, it's fairly reliable. You do often know what you're going to get. It's pretty rare that you don't get a daiginjo that is not floral or fruity or aromatic. But ginjo, when you get into the ginjo, like even you're going down to the lower levels, that's where you just can't rely on. Because if you've got a ginjo, a junmai ginjo, you can get stuff that, a ginjo that's very earthy, or, you might get one that's very fruity. And there's other factors that play into it, like the yeast that they use, because the yeast will have a massive impact on the aromas of sake. So if they're using a highly aromatic yeast, or they're using a yeast with low aromatics, you might, like I said, you might get one that's like very earthy and mushroomy, and then you'll get one that like smells like strawberries. So it could be, it's a bit of a, it's hard to rely on those grades as being a way to order. So honestly, yeah, the easiest way is to kind of trying to talk to someone, in the whether it's the waiter or the master or whatever, or the mama in the restaurant or the bar. And even here, like my menu is fairly sparse in terms of explanation, because the whole idea for when people come here is, I want to talk to them rather than, just say like, here's all the data on this sake. You decide if you want to drink it. It's way easier to talk to people and try and gauge what they're into.
I think that's also way better for, it's like, makes a way better atmosphere, way better experience too, when you're actually engaging, with somebody. Because I had this, some other friend told me, something similar, like, he specifically doesn't explain anything on the menu because he wants people to ask.
Yes.
Because he wants to engage with them and explain it and everything like that, and start a conversation. Because if they're forced to say, so I don't know what to order, can you help me? No, you're talking. Yeah. Yeah. And then once you've started this conversation, then it's easy to continue, right? And so, where are you from and stuff like that. So even
like some of the information that I might put on the menu, even if I put it in English, it still doesn't help them. Yeah, so it's like if I put on that this is a sake and this is the name of it, and if I put like like unfiltered, undiluted, cloudy, people just still go, well, what does that mean? What does it mean? It's like unpasteurized. Why have you put unpasteurized? What should it be pasteurized? Why so it doesn't help to like translate all the terms into English anyway. Yeah. So it's easy to just like say, look, here's what it is. Hit me with your questions, kind of thing, or if you want to know, I'll tell you all about it, kind of thing, and we can figure out from there. But the thing I find from here is if people are interested and they've got a bit of an open mind with sake, it's pretty rare that if I give someone a sake, which I think is objectively a well-made sake, it's pretty rare that people will drink it and go, wow, that's disgusting. That's crap. I'm out. What you'll get is either people go, this is awesome. Let's keep going. Or they might go, okay, this is good, or this is interesting, but maybe I want something sweeter, or maybe I want something drier, or maybe I want something richer, or maybe, and you can figure out where to go from there. But it's really rare that I get people that just like take a sip and go, oh, not for me. No, yeah, I'm out. Almost never happens.
It's been my experience with sake too, because I think once or twice I might have had a sake that was a little bit too alcohol-y for me. Yeah. Not like too much. It's just like, oh, can taste a bit more of the alcohol than I would like. It's not as smooth as I would like, but wasn't bad. I drank it. I didn't stop drinking it. Yeah. So basically, in all my years here, every time I've had sake, which is probably, like I said, 3-4 times a year.
That's not enough.
It's not enough. I've never been disappointed. I've even gotten the 1 cup sake from the convenience store. Yeah. It's good sake.
the Ozeki 1 cup in particular is the most maligned sake. It's like the butt of everyone's jokes kind of thing. And I'm like, no, I give it props for nothing else. It was the pioneer, that Ozeki Brewery. They patented, they, made the technology to create one sake. They were the first 1-cup sake, and like now all the breweries all over the country make 1-cup sake, for their local regional area, and they pretty much invented it.
And I'm guilty of that, like kind of looking down on it because it's like, oh, it's convenience store or whatever. But of course, living here, you realize that convenience store stuff is not lacking in quality necessarily.
No.
Plus, when I was in the train, I would see Japanese guys around me in the train drinking the 1-cup sake. So I thought, well, they're the professionals on sake. They're drinking it. Yeah. So I guess it's probably good. So then one time I actually tried it. I said, okay, I'm going to try this stuff. And I tried it and I was like, this is good.
It's fine. It's yeah. I mean, it's not. I mean, don't want to oversell it. It's the best thing ever. But it's fine. And I've been to Ozeki and been in the more. To be honest, it is more of a factory than a brewery where they make the 1-cup. It's absolutely amazing. It's just like the one of those. People talk about Japanese technology, stuff like that. It's like the peak of Japanese technology. Just amazing watching the way the 1-cup is made. It's just like, and the quality control and everything is unbelievable. But one of the, that's an example of a style of sake though. So we were talking about the high end of like Ginjo and Daigicho, and down the bottom, for lack of a better expression, is what we call futsushu. And futsu just means ordinary or normal or average kind of thing, and which often gets translated as table sake. So that's sake that falls outside any of the grades. So that might be for reasons where, for example, to make premium sake, you have to use rice that has been inspected by the tax agency. Or you have to, you can't. There are certain things you can't add. You can't add certain sugars or acids or stabilizers and things like that. There's limits on what you can add to the sake. So, for example, if you're looking at like something in a carton in the supermarket that's in that futsushu category, they might have extra additions of, whether it be sweeteners or acids and sugars and things like that. So additives, but falling into that futsushu, like I said, it might just be something like I said, uninspected rice. So where it's just rice that hasn't been inspected. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just it wasn't submitted for inspection. So if you use that rice, you can't play the game. You can't be in the grades. So you end up with, and a lot of that futsushu, as they call it, that's what breweries make for their local area. So if you really want to see, the regionality in sake, when I visit a brewery, and sometimes the brewers are almost like disappointed because they're like, oh, here's all our sake, and I want to try that one, the futsushu, and they're like, but this is the cheap stuff, that's. You're like, no, you want to try this? I'm like, no, because that's the one that you've been making for hundreds of years for your local community. Mm-hmm. These other ones, these are new guys that you're tweaking and you've made, in the last 20, 30 years.
Right,
maybe.
Right.
But your futsushu, that's your local one. That's your bread and butter. That's the one that, that if they change it, the locals will lose their mind and go, no. And so I've got, a few, that's one of the things that I actually try to push here, which I think is a little bit unique for a sake bar, is like, even though I try to cover having a whole range of stuff, is where I can, I'll always grab some, stuff, the regional that you can't get outside of that area kind of thing. And some of that stuff is amazing, really, really good.
Just because you have it here, can you show us, so if I order some sake, what is it going to come in? Can I order just a little cup, or is it come in the choco all the time?
So that's one of the interesting things with sake. And if anyone, every now and then you might come across a know-it-all who says sake is supposed to be served this well. Sake is, there is no consensus on how sake is to be served.
But usually it comes in like a small bottle and they give you small cups, and you have examples of that right here. So, and then you pour it out, right? So there. And what is this called? Is this the choco? No, the choco is the small ones, right? So yeah, and then the small cups are called the choco, right?
Okay. Let's see a couple of different things here. Some of these.
So usually the sake is served in this, and then you pour it in the little cups, right?
Right. So this is a tokuri. So you might, in some restaurants they might serve the sake in one of these, and you're getting about 180 mils or so. Which is called a go, ichigo, and then they'll give you some cups. So this is io choco. So io choco is a bit smaller. This is technically a guinomi, which is, I guess a guzzler, you might want to call it. And then you can serve sake in anything you want. And even though I have a nice collection of some of these guinomis, I like glassware. The other way that you might see it, and people are always interested,
Oh yeah.
is
I think that's what foreigners want right there.
yeah,
They want
they want the wooden box with the glass in it, and then they overflow it and all that kind of thing, which is fun. You know, it's a bit of a laugh, but it's not practical. It makes a mess.
Of course it does. Yeah, it's difficult to drink. You got on the
And
corner of the box.
Yeah, you kind of got to go down and suck it up before so you don't make a mess and everything. But it's a bit of fun, but it's not. I mean, I've just got that as decoration. I don't actually serve any sake like that.
Yeah, you have sake all over yourself, and
Yeah.
So okay, but yeah, so most places do it that way, but you here you serve it
By the glass.
and by the glass usually, and so when you serve in this, how much would you put? Like half?
90 mils is average.
Okay, that would be about half, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically to that line, yeah.
And now this would be like one person's.
Yeah.
And then how much would that cost for like your average? I know everyone is different, so it's a dangerous question, but like, what's your average cost for like?
Here?
Yeah, here.
700 yen.
700. Oh, that's good. So, and because that's a pretty good amount. And then, but like now you have more expensive ones, right? So what are like the most expensive one you have now?
Most expensive one is probably about just over 1,000, maybe 1,100 or so.
Okay, it's still reasonable.
But maybe a slightly smaller serve. Because some sakes you probably don't want 90 mils. So things like this, for example, which is probably doesn't look like
what is this?
the sake that you're.
Himoto.
Which one there?
Mizumoto.
So that's a Yamato Damashi from Hyogo, from Akashi. So that's aged in whiskey barrels for a year.
That is not the color of sake.
No. So that's kind of a bit more intense, and you probably don't want to have a full 90 mils of that. So
right, yeah.
So yes, depending on the sake.
Cool. Okay. So, and you serving food yet? I know you have a little bit of cookware back there.
A little bit of
Snacks?
food. That was one of the things. I've been obviously planning this place for a while, and when I first started planning it, the menu ideas were much more grandiose. And the further I got along with planning, it got shorter and smaller and smaller.
Well, it has to be practical, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I actually opened, I opened with 8 things on the food menu, and then after about like a week or two, I cut it down to 4.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
For one, because of the effort, and 2, because just the same things were getting ordered over and over again. I was like, well, I don't need 8. So I mean, yeah, for here, I do have food, but like it's not the main thing. It's because when you come to Japan, there's loads of like izakayas and restaurants where you can drink sake, but there's obviously not zero, but there's not that many bars where you can go and just sit and have a drink and drink sake.
Not only that, the reason why I thought this would be great. Well, I mean, I like talking to you anyway. Even if you didn't have a sake bar, I would want you to be on my podcast, my little podcast. But it's a place where English speakers can come,
yes,
and speak to someone and learn about sake and have everything explained to them and learn. I'm sure you're generous with your time and information. They can ask you about places to go and lesser seen, tourist places and other restaurant recommendations. You recommended me a couple other sake restaurants where I could get good sake. So yeah, I think it's a great resource. Like for the price of like 700 yen, you could actually milk him for a whole bunch of information for free. So
that's it.
Yeah. And I think there's very few places where you can have the sake explained to you in English. So that's really good.
Yeah, it's it's just something that because I think these days there's a lot of tourists that come to Japan and they're like, well, I've got my Google Translate, I've got my app, so I'm fine. I don't need to. And I think sometimes those people kind of can underestimate like how inconvenient that is for other people, though. If they go into a crowded bar and they're just like they just want to translate everything and using their app and everything, and it's like we're kind of busy here, doing. And it's like, yeah, it's. I mean, I haven't had it, per se said to my face, but I have had a couple of people that have come here not realizing that it's me here, and I think there's like a smidgen of disappointment that like, oh, we were hoping to interact with a Japanese person. And it's like, do you speak Japanese? And it's like, no. And I'm like, well, what were you going to do?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, I understand. But like, unless Kenji behind the bar speaks a lot of English, you're not getting anywhere in that conversation. So actually, this is better because, you know, it's kind of like what I'm doing. You could sit here and you could podcast interview this guy and talk about, you know, and find out what it's really like living here and stuff. Speaking of which, you know, just the last thing. Oh, so, I mean, it's in the middle of, are you allowed to serve sake before the bar?
I was going to say, we started before I was ready, but should we have something?
Yeah, I'd like to drink something. Yeah. I didn't know if you were allowed to serve it or not, but it's Japan. You can serve anytime, right?
Of course.
So anything like maybe actually a ginjo that because you were talking about it, a ginjo that you think I might like, that would be interesting.
Let's go with that. And
I love the design. Like for, you know, Japanese people are criticized for their lack of like creativity or whatever. Right. Man, just look at the front of sake bottles. Go to a liquor shop and look at the design of the sake bottles. Oh man, you've got some on your wall. I'll take some B-roll later and show you some of these designs of the sake labels. It's really amazing. Oh yeah, there's some here too. There's really beautiful labels on these sake bottles. And then also another thing that is just like wine is the temperature that you serve it at. It also really matters, right?
Yes. So depending on the sake. So a lot of the aforementioned ginjo and daiginjo, those kind of styles, and often unpasteurized styles, you want to be serving chill.
Right. Yeah.
But sake that's often earthier. Or perhaps
no, don't overdo it. I'm not going to waste it. Not going to be able to leave here.
Fine. Let's try this one first. It's the end of it. So this is a Junmai Ginjo from Nara.
Oh, cool.
And this is what we also call a Genshu, which means undiluted. Sorry, I'll sit back down.
What does undiluted mean?
So most sake generally will ferment up to around like 18-19%.
Oh, I see. It has legs.
And then they'll cut it down with a bit of water to bring. So most sake, that's another thing that people get wrong about sake is they think it's strong. The average sake is around 15-16%, which is about the same as
wine,
a red,
right?
yeah, about the same as red wine, yeah. And it cannot go over 22% legally. If it goes over 22%, it cannot be categorized as Nihonshu or Seishu, which is the technical tax category for sake.
Okay, so am I right? Then this looks a little bit thicker, like it has a thicker viscosity. Is that what I'm getting here? Like I said, it has kind of legs. It's sort of like
does have a bit, yeah,
like a syrupy sort of. Anyway, kanpai.
Kanpai. But that's an example of something like, talking about sweetness before.
Yeah.
It's not sweet.
It's sweet and it's not sweet at the same time. Like it has some kind of sweetness, but it's not the sugary sweetness that would come with a white wine or a sparkling wine.
So not to sound like I'm deceptive or anything, but like I've had, Japanese customers in particular come in and they do the thing of like, just give me the karokuchi, and if you serve them that, they don't complain. They don't sit there and go, this isn't the karokuchi. You know what I mean? They're kind of a bit, they think that that's what they want.
It's very, it's rather sappari with a bit of a kind of creamy sort of like mouth, of the mouthy feel, whatever when it goes down and none of that alcohol. So I understand why somebody who likes dry sake would like this because it has the feeling of a dry sake, but has a little bit of sweetness too, which is nice. Yeah.
I think it's just sometimes it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction of like, give me the dry one, because otherwise they think you're going to give them umeshu. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like that's too far down the other end of the spectrum. It's like no one's giving you that. Relax. It's you don't have to like emphasize that that you want the driest thing in the house kind of thing. And to be honest, I usually stock like one sake that is distinctly dry, for those hardcore people but most of the sake, and at the moment I've got probably about 25 bottles open. I wouldn't describe any of them as, straight up dry. there's ones like this that have a bit of dryness to them, but they're not bone dry, minerally dry kind of thing.
When I go into a sake shop, a liquor shop, to buy sake, I'm confused because, of course, all of the bottles are written in Japanese. I know the kanji for Niigata, so I usually look for Niigata. Also because my wife's from Niigata, so if I drink something else, she might get upset. So although I've brought her around to Nada rice, so Hyogo rice, like near Kobe rice. So maybe she'll like Kobe sake also, but yeah, I usually just look for Niigata, and then I judge by kind of the one by price level. I just buy one that's like not too expensive, or whatever, something that's reasonable. So
here in Osaka, there's a Niigata sake shop or a Niigata shop.
Oh, really?
There's a Niigata like antenna shop, and they've got Niigata sake, Niigata snacks, and Niigata.
Oh, wow.
And they've got a little tasting bar in there, so you can like sit in there and taste the Niigata sake.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I mean, if you luck out, you can get into hit a liquor shop. Sometimes the duty-free shops in the airport will have an English-speaking person. If you say like, "Oh, I'm looking for sake, I don't know what to buy," then she'll say, "Well, this one's popular." They might be working there part-time, but they might say, "Many people buy this one," or my father drinks this one, or whatever. So they can maybe help you out. But like I said, I've never been disappointed with a sake. So whatever you buy.
Yeah, it's the only like kind of criticism I guess I could say sometimes with sake is sometimes when I've bought sake for for home drinking kind of thing, the biggest criticism I can give is where I've bought something and just thought, oh, I'm not gonna finish this. Do you know what I mean? So I like it. It's okay, but I'm like, I might have just one glass or two glasses and go, I don't want to do this whole bottle, or it just might take me too long to get through it because it's not drawing me back enough. But I've never had anything and just like spat it out and gone, this is crap.
For me though, that's like, one thing my buddy Chris always talks about is like sometimes things that are too good, like too rich, like for example, Kobe beef.
Sure.
You can't eat 200 grams of Kobe beef.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you feel like you're going to throw up after 100 grams.
So that kind of goes back with like the Daiginjo styles. And that's why most people, I think is one of the reasons why most people, people that are really into sake don't drink it that much, because it's like you like one and done. You have one glass.
Yeah.
But if you're going to sit and have a few and have a chat, it's not really the sake for that moment. If you want something that's just going to be. So the second one, this is an example of being just right up my alley. So this is from a brewery in Wakayama.
This has a nice smell, by the way, just right off the bat.
So the other thing to point out, as I mentioned before about the local futsushu, the table sake. So this is from a brewery in Wakayama, Yoshimura Hideo Shoten, and they make a brand called Kurumazaka, which is their brand that's is sold all over Japan kind of thing. But this is their local futsushu, and it is called Nihonjo, so Japan Castle. Nihon Castle.
Yeah.
And
that sounds like a name a foreigner would give a wine.
Right.
Translated badly to Nihonjo.
Yeah.
It's like a really bad name, but I kind of like it.
And this is actually the sake that I had about 12 years ago when I was first getting into sake, and I was a bit of a snob and like, oh, I don't drink futsushu. That's the cheap stuff. That's the the dusty end of sake. And I was in a bar, which unfortunately no longer exists. I was in a great sake bar that used to be not far from here. And the lovely lady that used to work there, she said, check this out. And she slid this over, and I was just like, this is awesome. And she was like, it's a futsushu. And I was like, get out of here.
Okay, well, with no further ado, come by. That is nice.
Right?
That's like almost like peachy sort of sweetness, but without like too much sweetness. And then just a little, Nico. Just a little bit of sourness.
So this is actually 19%, so it's getting up higher.
Really? But you can't taste the alcohol.
No, it's.
I think it'd be easy to get wasted on this.
Yes, this is the kind of sake that it's talking before about. If you just had a bottle open and you're just going to sit and have a chat, get through that easy.
That's really nice. And that would be good with food too, I think.
Mm.
So I have this one tradition, like every year we order so a bunch of thinly sliced beef from, somewhere famous in Japan, some brand beef from, noze, Furusato Noze. Yeah. Can't explain it. Anyway, we order online this beef, and then we have our little sukiyaki party.
Right.
I've made YouTube videos about it, my eating sukiyaki. Well, when I do that, you got to have sake with sukiyaki, right? I mean, it's made with sake inside of it. And then, by the way, you might notice we're saying sake all the time, which is a proper pronunciation. We don't have it wrong. You have it wrong if you're saying sake. So just letting you know.
I thought you were going to point out the other thing, because I thought there might be someone sitting there thinking, this guy thinks he knows about sake, but he keeps calling it sake when it's really called Nihonshu. And it's like, yes, it is really called Nihonshu, or the tax category is Seishu. But I think it, I'm one of the things with, putting education into English is, let's not make it any more complicated than it needs to be. If everyone knows it as sake, let's call it sake.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of people, I've had it again, people say, but if you go to a restaurant in Japan and you ask for sake, it just means alcohol, which is true. It just does mean, but I've yet to be in a restaurant and they've not understood what I'm talking about. If I say, can you give me the, what kind of sake have you got? And they go, well, we've got whiskey, and no, they go straight to the Nihonshu.
Yeah,
they know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
unless you're in Kagoshima, in which case they'll go to shochu.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. No. Okay. Well, but that's a good point. So if you want to learn the word Nihonshu, then it's like, without a doubt, they're going to know you're talking about, sake. And, so what was I going to say?
Sorry, yeah.
The sukiyaki. We have a little sukiyaki party. So I actually I can't say it. I actually ask Siri to play, don't do anything. I asked her to play the sukiyaki song, and it introduces a playlist of all these like 50s, 60s Japanese, cause when you play one song, it'll just continue playing other similar songs.
Kind of thing, right?
So we just get this like hour-long, 50s, 60s, 70s Japanese music.
Yeah. And,
while we're having our little sukiyaki party, and, I start with sake, but after one or two of these, then it's like, okay, now it's beer time. But yeah, it just goes so well together. And I have to admit, like, I really should do this more often with sushi. Sake really does go well with it. So I really should, start with sake and then hit the beer later, or vice versa.
I mean, I'm one of the typical. The Japanese thing of the toriaizu biru.
Yeah.
So I'm that as well. I'm very, very guilty of that. But yeah, sake is massively underrated as a food pairer. And there is a much, often there's bizarre translations for this, but there's the phrase Nihonshu wa ryori o erabanai. So direct translation is sake doesn't choose its food, or some people like to put more, animated, translations to it. But basically, sake doesn't choose its food. And what that means is, if you've ever seen a stereotypical sommelier, wine sommelier, taste a wine and they'll smell it and then they'll say, this would go fantastic with braised spatchcock with a raspberry puree and like artichokes on the side. And it's like, all right, that's really cool, but who the fuck's going to make that? So what if I'm just having a sandwich, what should I have? And that's what sake is. It's like, when you drink sake, it can, if you want to be really anal about your pairings and match it to something, you can totally do it. But one of the best things about sake is it doesn't matter what you're eating. It won't mess it up. You're not going to that whole kind of cliche of, we're having white fish, but we've got red wine or something like that. It doesn't have those, pitfalls that it falls into. There's a couple of, we mentioned before, like yakiniku, where it won't not go with the meal, but sure, if you're surrounded, you've got smoke going everywhere, sake might lose out to it. It doesn't quite cut through, but it doesn't taste bad. It's not a poor matching, and that's what happens with most food. Is like sake can just go with anything. Which makes a lot of sense, because if you go to an izakaya with your friends and you got like 6 or 7 of you there and you're drinking, and again in Japan you share the food, right?
Yeah.
So you're sitting there at a table, you've got some, karaage, fried chicken, you maybe got some sashimi there, you maybe got some kind of, stir fry tamemono or something like that. You maybe got some vegetables, you got a bit of tempura, you got all this on the table. If that was wine and you go, okay, so we got beef, let's get a bottle of red. It's like, yeah, but what are we going to have with the sashimi? Oh, let's get a bottle of white for the sashimi. Whereas if you got sake, it's like, goes with all of them. You're covered.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. For me, like, don't listen to me. I'm just telling you my preference. Like, for me, it's yakiniku beer, okonomiyaki beer. But if you want to have sake, yeah, go ahead. Please do. It's not gonna not pair with anything.
It won't take away from your experience.
I think there are things that beer wouldn't pair with that sake would, and things that red wine wouldn't pair with that sake might, because it's really. Like, when I drink sake, it actually has this kind of like water viscosity. It's like flavored water almost. It's not like, my idea of sake before I had sake was it is some kind of like vodka or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, and then when I had it, I was like, oh, this is really nice. And it's not like wine. It's not like anything else. Oh, and another thing about the like prices and stuff like that. My goal for red wine is to find the best wine I can for like 1,000 to like 1,500 yen. So, because why pay more?
Right.
If you like something cheap, if I can find something that I like and it's cheap, yeah, just drink that.
Yeah.
Because you get diminishing returns. I don't know about sake. You can answer this when I'm done my little rant here. But when you get diminishing returns on almost everything, like bass guitars, you could pay $10,000 for a bass guitar, but is it 10 times as good as $1,000 bass guitar? No,
exactly.
It's not, because you have this diminishing return, and so you have to go like, $100,000 until you get something like 10 times as good. So, yeah, and I find that about wine too. So if I have to pay double as much, if I have to pay 2,500 or 3,000 yen for a bottle of wine to get 25% more enjoyment out of it. Okay, I'll do that on a special occasion. Otherwise, I'm going for the 1,000 yen bottle of wine. So is that, I suspect that's the same with sake, right? You try a bunch of sakes and you find the one that you like, and ideally, strategically, you'd find the cheap one that you like and go for that, right?
Well, like I said, like these kind of ones that are the local futsushu, they're ridiculously reasonably priced, because they're usually one of the funny things about them is they're often, because I mentioned they're often made for their local market, which is people over 70, and so a lot of them are stuck that they can't they'll raise their prices of their other stuff that they're sending all over the country or maybe exporting, but their local one, it'll be stuck in the price from the 70s. So you can, if you're ever like traveling and you are lucky enough to visit a brewery that has some kind of like maybe a store or a cellar door kind of thing, if they have their futsushu, it's often like 900 yen a bottle, or like it's rarely over 1,000.
Well, for this bottle?
Oh no, sorry, the smaller bottle.
Okay, small bottle.
But even like the big bottle might be like a bit more than 2.
Wow,
definitely, it might be around 21, 2,100. Wow. Like they're the biggest bargains ever. This is, I know we can't see it, but this one here is from Kochi's. It's called Keigetsu. And this is a brewery that's renowned for very aromatic daiginjo styles. They use a yeast called Cell 24, which tastes like, whenever non-Japanese people smell it, they go, this smells like Jolly Ranchers or like gummy bears. It's like, it's really cool. But this is their local sake, and it's just another world away. And it's really cheap. I still charge 700 a glass for it, but it's really cheap, But the other thing is like to balance that is the good thing about is like that also allows me though to serve more expensive sake at a reasonable price. So when you ask about my expensive sake, I can balance serving cheap sake and expensive sake at the same price, because they cancel each other out or balance each other out.
Good. No, I mean, we all want you to make money. We all want you to be here. So that's good. No, this is great, man. Cause like, I've been in Japan a long time, but it's just, even when when you live here a long time and there's like some blind spot you have, So just recently I had, my friend Gerard, he came on one episode, as like episode 12 or something like that. And now you explaining sake, Like, yeah, I think it deserves more attention. And this is great. Like, I mean, I'll come here sometime, and learn more. You can come here, learn about Japan, learn about sake, try some great sakes, and yeah, it's a great experience. So, and you're in Umeda, and so that's close to a lot of hotels, and you're going to go through Umeda no matter where you're going. If you're staying if you're staying in Namba and you're going to Kyoto, you're coming through Umeda. So on your way back, stop here and go to your hotel later. So, yeah, great. Just, I kind of kept you for a long time.
No, it's cool. It's all good.
Maybe just like a speed question round.
Okay.
Just a few things about
We didn't talk about music at all. I thought we were going to talk about music. I thought that would come up, but we managed to gloss over it somehow.
Sake is more interesting than music. No, it's not.
It's not. Seeing two bass players. And, anyway.
Yeah. Well, we talked about music a lot last time we met. So why Japan? Why'd you stay in Japan? Why'd you come back?
So as I mentioned, like, so my I went over with, she was my girlfriend at the time, and when we went back to Australia and we got married in Australia, and we were pretty happy there. We had a good thing going, kind of thing. But it just got to that point where we were. The thing was, living on the Gold Coast, it's definitely like you can see the ceiling of, because the Gold Coast, for anyone who's not familiar, I kind of for North Americans describe it as like a cross between Hawaii and Florida. It's like a beautiful place with trashiness to it.
Okay.
So it's beautiful, like, aesthetically beautiful beaches, amazing weather and everything. There's some dodgy parts to it. There's some dodgy people there and stuff. So
Japan is absolutely not dodgy. I mean, not absolutely. It's 99% not dodgy. Okay, right. 95% not dodgy.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, that was a clear choice. But what was it exactly? It's like, okay, you know what? Japan is better because.
Honestly, the clincher was actually when we were talking about it, was when weighing up our options, was my wife was of the idea, well, if we at the time we weren't thinking about kids, but we're like, if we do have kids, she was like, she wants to be back here if we have kids. And
back here. Wait a second. So your wife is Japanese?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, that makes sense. Sure. Yeah. Also, though, if I had kids, I would want my kids to be Chinese character readers. So I'd want my kids to grow up in not China. Sorry, CCCP, if you're listening, Taiwan or Japan, because then, that's huge. Being able to read and write Japanese or Chinese, growing up 100%. And being able to speak it and then speak English as well. Like, yeah, that's a huge advantage. Plus, the Japanese education system is amazing. I would not allow my kids to go to university here, but and I would tell them, don't bother studying for the university exam. It's a waste of your time. I'm going to send you abroad for university. That's just my thing. But yeah, okay. So she wanted to have kids in Japan. Okay, so that makes sense. And how about you? Your own personal reasons?
I was actually kind of either or. I was
okay.
I mean, I was not against coming back to Japan at all. I was like, oh, I'm down for it if that's what we're going to do. But I was also, I think the thing with living on the Gold Coast, like I said, because the Gold Coast is like I said, there's like a ceiling you can kind of see. Right, this is as good as it's going to get. We're never going to make any more money than this. We're never going to, we're never going to go beyond where we are here in terms of our lifestyle here. This is it. We've kind of maxed out this in terms of what you can do there. And so it was like, well, if we're happy, if we're really going to we can't wait 15, 20 years later and go, oh, I wanted something more, or I wanted, because this is as good, this is all you can do here. So as long as, we can be satisfied with that, then I'm happy to stay on the Gold Coast a bit and stay in Australia. But I was kind of happy to do, because the funny thing is, I've got friends that come over and visit Japan. And the thing is, like, and I was aware of this when I was back in Australia, is, because when you come here for a holiday, if you go back like I did and lived in Australia and then come back here for 2 weeks, like, you do more in that 2 weeks than someone that lives here does in 6 months, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I get, my friends, my sake related friends, that come over, that they'll be here for 2 weeks and they'll travel all over Japan and they'll visit like 15 sake breweries and and I'm like, yeah, man, it's like, that's a year's worth of, stuff for me. So I get, it's not like that idea of you missing out by living, I'm in Australia, I'm missing out all the stuff in Japan. So no, I'm here all the time, and trust me, I'm not, if people think that I'm visiting sake breweries every day or whatever. It's like, no, I'm not quite doing that. So, but yeah, I was kind of happy to come back if that was what we were going to do. The good thing I think as well that made it a big difference was, like I said, around 2007 when I went back, I was legit homesick. You know, and and people kind of have short memories about this, but you know, you've been here long enough that you can remember as well. It's like, dude, I went through every video and DVD in Steyr. It was like, because you know, and that thing of, you know, calling you when you wanted to call your parents, and you go to the convenience store and buy a giant receipt for 3,000 yen for 10 minutes worth of like an echoey phone call to call back
telephone
Australia.
card, and you go to some like dodgy place on the street under a lamp, and you know, and put the card in, Mom, and can I talk for 1 minute?
Yeah, and she's like, what? And like, I wanted to. I got. Can you hear me? Yeah, no, yeah, I wanted to. Oh, sorry, time's up. You're done. And now it's like you've got Line and Zoom and everything. So like coming back was not. Plus that my family's in Sydney and we were living on the Gold Coast, so we weren't next to my family anyway.
It's a world away almost anyway, right? Yeah.
So coming back now, and it's like, yeah, you've got YouTube and you've got Netflix and you've got all these things everything's, you know. I remember my mum sending me a VHS of like Seinfeld and Simpsons episodes.
Same,
you know
same, yeah.
And I watched it over and over again. It's like so sad to like kind of think that like that's how desperate I was for, you know, some Western interaction kind of thing. And now it's all so close, and you know, everything from the like I said, the movies and the internet and everything to the, you know, Zoom and phone calls and everything. It doesn't feel like you're that far away anymore, you know? Yeah,
it is totally different. I am super glad that I came here when there was like no cell phones and nobody had a cell phone, but yeah.
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay. So a couple things you love about Japan, something you don't like about Japan.
I love everyone. I'm sure everyone says the same thing. I love the general safeness of Japan. I've never felt scared. I've never felt threatened. I've never crossed the road to avoid, and I've worked in hospitality, you know, in many situations, and I've probably seen 3 fights kind of thing, you know, ever, you know, whereas I go back to Sydney and I'll see 3 fights in the first weekend just walking around.
Yeah. My hometown is, only whores and hockey players. Who does your mom played for? Yeah, it's just like, you know, my town is my town is called Sudbury. In brackets, what the fuck are you looking at? that kind of thing. Yeah. So, yeah, no, it is lovely here, and people don't realize, like, you know, if you're listening to this, the 100 people who listen to this, basically, think about your daily life. And anytime you think, like, if is somebody around the corner, I got to get my key out before I go to the car garage. I better wear running shoes and not heels, like as a woman, you know, or, you know, as a guy, like even if you can take care of yourself, you don't want to get in a fucking fight with somebody, you know, just like say somebody, what the fuck are you looking at or whatever. That it just doesn't exist here.
No.
And it's just an amount of freedom. Like, you know, somebody just said to me, oh, my buddy, Sean, he's visiting now. And he said, like, you know, he lived in the States. He's Canadian. He lived in the States. He works there a lot. And, you know, Americans are all about how free they are. And he said, I don't think you guys are as free as you think you are. In Texas, he works in Texas a lot. You're all walking around with guns on your hip. You're afraid of something, or you're preparing for something, and that's got to be just a constant low-level anxiety that exists throughout your life that in Japan doesn't exist.
Yeah.
There's no low-level anxiety with regards to or even, you know, as guys, we tend to care about the safety of others a lot. Like I'm always on Saudi about, like, where are you? You coming back? Even in Japan, it's just kind of a natural thing we do. Don't really have to worry about it. When she doesn't message me back, I'm not like, oh, something happened.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I never worry about it really.
Yeah.
But, you know, so yeah, it's just a great thing living here. Yeah, what else?
Obviously the food, you know, just eating out and drinking out is just a never-ending source of enjoyment. And
the price, right?
The price as well, yeah. and one of the things, and this kind of ties into one of the things I don't like about Japan, but you know, I think it's almost like a sport for the foreign community here to bitch about the Western food here, and like, you know, it's just like the old cliche is, oh, you can't get a good burger, or you can't get good pizza, or you can't get good tacos. And it's like, if you really think you can't get good pizza or good burgers or good tacos here, you're out of your mind. It's like,
no, as a matter of fact, Japanese, some place in Tokyo has won the international pizza competition or something like that years in a row. They've beat out people in Napoli.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay. So the best burger I ever had was in France, actually, of all places. But no, you can get an absolutely amazing burger in Japan. Yeah. I think Japan does the best of everything a lot. And what are you doing coming to Japan and bitching about Western? Why are you even eating Western food, first of all? And then, when I go to Spain, I don't go to fucking McDonald's or, eat some French fries. Actually, Spanish actually make great French fries with that little sauce that they have, that that Bravo sauce or whatever they call it. Anyway, has paprika or something in it. Anyway, so, okay. Now I have a new pet peeve, and I didn't even know it existed. Foreigners who come here and bitch about Western food.
I think it's more like the foreign, the community that lives here.
Oh, the foreign community who lives here. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm not friends with any of those fucking lamos. So that's good, because all the foreigners I know, they find food that they enjoy. Yeah. So
I think it's like it's like if you say, I don't know, it's like this one-up thing of like, if you say, oh, I found this good pizza place, and someone will go, oh no, you got to go to this place in Tennoji, and like, well, how about wouldn't it be nice if we had two places to go to instead of just being the one good place? I think one of the things, what's something I don't like about Japan? I guess.
How about opening up a bar? Like, I talked with my buddy Lawrence about this. He said it was so easy to just get a license for the place. Was that true for you too?
Yeah, it's not hard. It's like
it's unbelievable.
The red tape is funnily enough, for a country that's famous for its red tape, there's not a lot of red tape.
That's why I asked you, because I was thinking one thing I don't like about this country is the really strict red tape. It's the country. It's like Japan, because we've always done it this way. It's like this should be their tag, line. Well, but some things like getting a car license, and getting a bar license to serve people alcohol and food. Really, like too easy almost.
Yeah. But that kind of ties into one of the things. So one of the things when people ask what's like to live in Japan, and is like the overall like easy way to describe it for me now is I think of Japan as being a place where you learn to pick your battles. Because there's so many things that pop up, and you just learn to like, and this is so different from when I first lived here, like in the early 2000s, where things would annoy you and you have these microaggressions and stuff. And now, you just learn to like let that one go, let that one go, let that one go. And every now and then you go, all right, I'm going to play my flag in this one. This is the thing I'll argue. I won't let that go. And it's kind of like, I don't know see what you think of this. Is like, I think there's 3 stages of being a foreigner in Japan that people either go through or stop in. They either go through to the end, to all 3, or they stop at one of the first 2. Is the first stage is you come here and you're the novelty and you love it. You're like, you're awesome. You stand out, and which is not as much anymore, but definitely in the, when we first came here and before that, it's like you walk in a bar and people go, who's that guy? And people talk to you and they're interested in you, and, and you enjoy being the novelty and the different person. You kind of play to that sometimes. And like I said, some people stay in that stage live here for 10, 20 years and still enjoying that kind of phase. And then you learn a bit of Japanese and you get a bit integrated, and you get into the middle stage, which is kind of the angry stage, where you're like, why won't people accept me? Why do people why did you give me the English menu? I've been here. I can speak Japanese, and everything you get in that kind of phrase of why don't people accept me? Why, I've been here long enough. I've paid my dues. And then those people are kind of very agitated, and lots of things are annoying them. And then you get to stage 3, which is where I like to think I was, where you just don't give a shit anymore. It's like, I don't care. And you still do have days where you might fit into phase 1 or phase 2, where it's like, okay, I'm getting treated a bit differently here, but I'm just going to use that to my advantage for today. And then there might be, the little microaggressions that do annoy you. But like I said, you learn to pick your battles. It's like, if I sit down at a restaurant and someone gives me the English menu, I'm like, all right, fine, I'll read the English menu. I don't sit there and go, excuse me, but I can read Japanese, I just say, all right, man, whatever. If I go to the convenience store and they say in English, would you like a bag? I just say, no, thank you. I don't sit and go, I can speak Japanese. Why are you asking me in English? Who cares, man? As long as you get your day done.
Yeah. Also, because like one time, one time somebody offered me a spoon and it was like, what are these little baby spoons?
Right.
And I told my buddy Mark about that. And you know, I was pissed off because it was like they were like making fun of me almost. And he says, no, dude, they were just trying to help you out. They just thought like, there's a foreigners can't use chopsticks.
Right.
I should offer him a spoon. And that's the spoon that they had, you know. And so I was like, yeah, you're right. I guess she probably wasn't trying to, you know, fuck with me. This woman at the gyudon shop.
That's like another thing, like that kind of thing where I've you know, I get some tourists that come in here, and some of them, you know, some people kind of say, oh, yeah, you know, if you ask them where have you been eating out, and they'll say one of our things, if we see a sign that says we have an English menu, we don't go there. And I'm like, why not? They're trying to help you out. They made an English menu. It's for you. Do you read Japanese? And like, no, I don't read it. Well, that's for you. That's the restaurant you're supposed to go to. There's someone in there that's made the effort of making you an English menu. And like, no, we're going to go somewhere authentic. It's like, oh, so you mean you want to go somewhere and annoy the shit out of everyone because they're really busy and they don't have time to explain the menu to you?
Yeah.
Go to the other place. That's what it's there for.
That reminds me of these people who say, well, if you want to get real authentic Italian food, then don't go to the places with the, you know, with the translated menus or whatever. It's like, what the fuck do you know about Italian food anyway?
Right.
You're from Canada.
Yeah.
It's like, what kind of good Italian food is there? Go to Italian food and, you know, and pay twice as much for a bowl of pasta because you have the fucking Duomo of Milan in front of you.
Right.
And yeah, okay, maybe the pasta is not the best pasta you can get in all of Milan. Italian's not going to serve you shitty pasta anyway.
Exactly.
You know, so, and what do you know anyway? So yeah. But in Japan, you know, one thing I've said this a million times on the podcast, I give unsolicited advice to everybody I meet in Japan who I help, you know, because sometimes if I have time and, I'm on my way to a class or whatever, and I see people, you know, on their phone looking at the timetable of the train, I'll just say like, speak English? Yes. Where are you going? Kyoto? This train now. And then I usually just yell at them. I just say like, hey, and by the way, every restaurant in Japan is good.
Right.
Have a good time. That's it. Cause you know, people are wondering, is this good? Are they going to rip me off? Is this a foreigner place? Cause they're translating the menu. Is this one of these 4 foreigner places they don't give a shit about good food because they know they're never going to see you again? No, every place in Japan is good. So. Yeah, and what do you know about Japanese food anyway? Right,
exactly. Yeah, and also I like it when the one that's cracked me up is when, especially if people go down to like Dotonbori or somewhere like that, and they say we went to this amazing place, it was authentic. There were no white people. It was all Japanese, and I'm like, no, they were Chinese and Korean. So you might not have been many white people there, but those weren't Japanese people. We were in Dotonbori. None of those people were Japanese.
Yeah, could have been. Yeah, you know, just choose something that looks good and have a good time. Almost everywhere in Japan is good. And, and actually I kind of agree with you. If you find a place where they're trying to speak English, you know, maybe one of these people are like, I have so many English tourists. I'm going to take an English class. I'm going to go on YouTube and learn some lessons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So maybe they did what I would do if I were working in a Japanese sushi bar back home. I would say, you know what? I should learn some Japanese because some Japanese are coming in here sometimes.
Yeah.
And so,
but that's the thing, that place that they think is super authentic that doesn't have the English menu. If you guys keep going there, they will eventually.
Yeah.
And then you're going to stop going there, you know?
Right.
So it's like, it's a strange kind of thing.
Okay, last question. Either some place that you can recommend that is not overloaded with tourists, or some place that you think is overrated that tourists are going to that you think like don't bother.
I mean, I'm still fascinated, you know, having just said what we just said. I'm fascinated that when you go down to Dotonbori down there, and that people are lining up for the places there, and it's like you only have to walk a block away, you know, less than a block away from that strip to get food that is, you know, way cheaper for starters, because that's like tourist prices around there.
As good or better for cheaper.
Yeah.
That's the same Italy advice. Everybody on YouTube will give you the same advice. You want to get out, you want like authentic thing? Walk 2 blocks away from the whatever Duomo or whatever church or, you know, 1,000-year-old, you know, Parthenon or whatever. Just walk for 2 blocks.
Yeah.
And any restaurant you find there is going to be great.
Yep.
And it's going to be authentic, quote unquote. Yeah, I totally agree.
You see like the line of people for like one takoyaki stand. It's like, and then there's like, well, you know, there's one down there, and they're like, oh, but no one's lining up. And it's like, well, they will if you start lining up there. It's like you just, you know, you're just feeding it by lining up here. It's like that place is fine. So I mean, and yeah, Dotonbori's, it's fun. I'm not saying don't go there. Go down there and have a walk and check it out, but I wouldn't waste my time lining up to eat there. It's like just a waste of time.
No, definitely go. All those lights and everything, and the moving crowd and all this. You know, that's great stuff. That's totally Japan. Was it Black Rain?
Yeah.
Stuff. So that's good. But no, I totally agree. Yeah, do all that. Just take pictures at all the tourist stuff, and then walk 2 blocks somewhere and find somewhere to eat. Yeah, that's good. Okay, man. I took enough of your time. We could talk for tons more time because we haven't even talked about music yet. But thanks a lot.
Maybe
thanks for introducing the sake to all of us. And come here. The name of your place again is
Sake House.
Sake House. That's easy enough. And you're Google searchable now?
Yes, I'm in Google Maps. Should come up. I'm on Instagram at Sake House Osaka.
And I'll put a link in the video thing too.
Cool.
So yeah, great. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.